Hello, today we are meeting the CEO and the co-founder of Satwa, which is a social enterprise. His company has brought a whole new approach of balancing business with social responsibility. So let's hear more about it from the man himself. Hello, Mr. Vikram. What is the need for your company, Satwa?
See, one of the primary things which we sort of realized as we used to be volunteers. I used to be in a day job, a bunch of friends used to be in day job. We felt that the connectivity between a mainstream society, the so-called social sector, the various aspects which are there in development, right, are fairly disconnected. One primary problem, right, existing in their own spaces and stuff. So one of the main things what we thought and inspired us to create Satwa was to bring these different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, as you call, much more together, so that there's better engagement and interactivity with all the forms, and which then leads to a higher form of productivity and output of the development process. So to put it together in one sentence, I think the need for Satwa is to bring the different pieces of the developmental change processes together. So it could be the NGOs, it could be the governments, it could be the enterprises, it could be the civil society. So our business model works with all these sectors of people to bring them together and interact and then work towards a common. That's pretty much the outlook of Satwa.
So yeah, please tell us more about how you came up with this idea.
Yeah, as I told you with the previous answer, I mean, a bunch of us were very closely involved with the sector itself, as in capacities as volunteers, as core team members and stuff. So had a fair share of experiences volunteering with organizations. Then we set up a small group called I Think I Have a Solution, where we did very small pro bono consulting assignments with different smaller organizations, and started a magazine which was exclusively on developmental topics called Satwa at that point of time, which because we felt that amongst people like us, the awareness levels about social issues, about organizations, about people, the work happening was fairly limited. So we thought we'd start a magazine. So the work started like this, through Itihas, through Satwa, through volunteering. But over a period of time, we thought, I think there's a higher potential for this model to be taken up, which is when about sometime around last year we decided we'll set up Satwa as a company with much more higher level of focus, higher level of impact, involvement with various people, and that is how Satwa as a company was born. It was co-founded by 4 of us as a company, and then of course we took full-time leaps into the company, and we're running it full-time as a company.
So yeah, tell us, how does your company plan to bring an equilibrium between business and social responsibility?
See, as I told you earlier, one of the main reasons for setting up Satwa was to get all the sort of pieces of the sector together, right? As I told you, there are multiple stakeholders who have a very important role in sort of enhancing that entire system, and not just NGOs, not just government. So everybody has to play a role. So we debated about what's the best form in which something like this can happen. One thing which came across clearly was that I think there's a fundamental need for knowledge, awareness, because everything arises from knowledge, information, right? Knowing things, and then you can act upon things. So I think we were very clear that the model had to be based on knowledge and use of that knowledge for achieving a certain positive result. What's the kind of model? I think since we were all people from normal professional backgrounds, I think each of us had enough stories and experience to go back to think that I think an enterprise model was very effective in ensuring scale, impact levels, right? So, and this is something which has been, and I think the advent of the social entrepreneurship model was very timely, where I think more and more it was becoming obvious that impacts at large levels can be achieved by marrying an enterprise model to a social model, which is why we took the approach of setting up Satwa as a company. So Satwa is a social enterprise. So we have focuses in media, research and consulting, where we work with exclusive stakeholders, NGOs, companies, social enterprises, foundations, on working with them on solving their problems, whereas media is focused towards civil society in making the society much more aware, active, proactive, participating. Yes, but and as an enterprise. So how do we marry this? I think when we're saying as an enterprise model, we are a company. So we are a for-profit company. So we would run professionally as a for-profit enterprise, but our models are very strongly attached to social impact. So one of the first values of what the kind of work which we do is to be measured by social impact, and secondly by economic impact. So we are out here to create a profitable enterprise, but in the process achieve a humongous degree of social impact. And the kind of work what we do would also then entail these two sections to come together. Right? So in a sense what I'm saying is that I think the best practices and the advantages of running an enterprise model, be it process, be it frameworks, or be it the importance being placed on results, right? A certain amount of responsibility towards how in a business you would say shareholders, here there are stakeholders in a social system, right? So being very accountable to the stakeholders of the system, these are all the good practices which come out of an enterprise system, married with the impact focus, the vision focus, the focus of a social system, right? Okay. That has to come together, which is what we say is an equilibrium of the change process, basically. And Sattva, in its own model, does this, would also work with other models which does this. So there's a marriage of everything.
So tell us, where do you see your company 10 years down the line?
10 years is a long time. Okay, but I think from a very let me not call it 10 years or 5 years, from a long-term vision perspective, yeah. I think what you would call it as a dream as to why we set out doing what we did do at Sattva is to have a very mainstream developmental life, right? Where development per se gets equal importance to any other aspect of your life. And when I'm saying life, I'm not differentiating a person who's living a life in an NGO or a person who's leading a mainstream professional career. The differentiation should not exist. Technically for us, I think the definition of that sector has to break down into something which is very mainstream, where we look at development very naturally as something where we have a responsibility towards, we are a part of, we are getting affected, and we are also affecting the system, right? We are in the center of the whole developmental system as opposed to being, that's like a long-term vision kind of a dream, if you could call it. But from a very specific point of view, 5 years, 10 years down the line, I think we would like to be an organization which is at the center of leading all aspects of change related to development, right? Mm-hmm. Being it leading a kind of a activism revolution among the civil society, among normal people, saying that, you know what, hey, it's very cool and nice to be socially responsible, to be involved in the system, to be volunteering, to be participating in events which has a social responsibility, right? All those kinds of things. We want to be at the forefront to facilitate that, right? At the other end, we would want to be facilitating huge scale problem solving among organizations, right? Are we able to help them to scale 10 times, 100 times, 200 times? Are we able to help them scale internationally, right? Nationally, right? Those are the kinds of large-scale problems we would be really happy to be solving, and being the center of things to solve these kinds of problems. Perhaps being the face of sort of social change system itself a few years down the line. So if someone comes and says, hey, you know what? I think India is now going very high on social developmental indices is because, say, organizations like Sattva exist. Because it's pushing the whole agenda of making the entire ecosystem much more progressive and inclusive. I think, yeah, that's like a big bang vision. It will be an interesting journey.
So thank you very much for talking to us, and we wish you and your company great success in the future.
Thank you. Good luck to you guys too with the program.